Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the great digital deathmatch debate of digital experts versus digital natives. Thinking about how best to introduce this, I was reminded of the brilliant Douglas Adams quote, his 3 rules of technology. Rule 1, any technology that exists when you are born is part of the natural order of things. Rule 2, any technology that comes into being between the time you are 15 and 35 is exciting, revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. Rule 3, any technology that is invented after you are 35 is against the natural order of things. It's my birthday next week. I'm going to be 35. So after my iPhone 4 arrives, everything else will become irrelevant. My interest is in working with young people, and I'm quite excited to be here as part of the Virgin Pioneers process, which I think is a brilliant program of supporting young people. You're going to meet 4 digital natives who are all young people changing lives and changing their own lives in the digital space. This interests me particularly. My organisation is called Livity. We're essentially a marketing agency. Our clients range from Google to Coca-Cola and PlayStation and O2, for whom we create active communities and really powerful platforms for social change. But we all do that within a marketing capacity. And what we've invented or created for working with and understanding this debate between digital expertise and understanding digital natives is this very sophisticated, quite complex, open source way of learning and working, which just involves letting young people into our office every day. Every day throughout the week, Monday to Friday, between 40 and 50, 16 to 24-year-olds come charging through my office and inspire and educate and make a hell of a lot of noise. But it's a fantastic and amazing place to work. The insights don't stop since we began. I remember we were working on a sexual health campaign in late 2003, and a couple of 15-year-olds sat me down and signed me up to something called MySpace. Last year, we're doing something around identity at the beginning of the year, and I realised every single one of my 15-year-olds is all using a BlackBerry. And furthermore, they introduced me to the fact that their BlackBerry PIN is actually what they'll identify themselves with on social networks. And the thought to me of putting your mobile phone number online is just insane. But the need to connect, the need for mass mingling is so great. I've learned this week that texting is boring. Hopefully no one in the room needs that £200 million that is spent on pay and go texting every year. But because we've sold off data for free and you can be on BBIM, texting is essentially over. So the youth trends that will change and shape our products and services are so very much upon us. So back to the debate, digital experts versus digital natives. I don't think any of us like those terms, and we do want to try and explore those terms. Can you really be a digital expert? Is that just an oxymoron? Are you really just a buzzword aggregator? What is a digital native? What a crazy and strange term. Is that really just a definition by age? At what point do we stop trying to define people by age? Would we ever have companies where you made people sit in classes in departments divided by their age? I don't think we would. And where does this go? You know, do we have to have something? It's almost counterintuitive to the way the web works to have this kind of terminology. If we're trying to work out what's next, why do we have to have the terms that hold us back? And what will happen next? How can these experts inform these natives for the future? When it comes to understanding, me and these guys have been talking about their projects and where it came from, who showed them. And it doesn't really exist in terms of education. We don't have lessons to teach creativity and confidence in uncertain futures. And I looked this up. I was at an education conference last week where someone on stage said technology is the enemy of education. Why aren't we using the expertise we have to empower these guys forward? Last year, we managed to spend £50 million on technology in education. Becta did. And that's the closest thing you can find to innovation in education and young people. At the same time, we spent £550 million in defence innovation. So sometimes it seems like it's more important for us to know what weapons we're going to need in 10 years than it does to know what these guys are going to be in 10 years. And we would like to challenge that. So, to share that expertise, I would like to introduce you to my team. The winning team. Robin's taking bets at the back. We're 5-1 favourites. I'd like to go down the table and ask each of you to say a little bit about you and what it is you're currently doing. Hello, Sam.
My name's Sam. I run a British basketball website called hoopsfix.com, launched in January this year, and now in June we're essentially the highest traffic basketball website in the country. It's going really well. Essentially it's kind of aggregating basketball information from up and down the country, game reports, I film games, do video highlights, do interviews, articles, features, put it up on the web, basically.
Fantastic. And how did this come about?
I used to play basketball myself, and as you may have all noticed in the papers, you don't really see anything about it. There's no coverage, exposure. It's one of the minority sports that, despite there being a very large following of it, doesn't get any press coverage. So that's one of the things that personally I found very frustrating. I think a lot of other players do. So I just took it upon myself to make it happen, basically.
Fantastic. And have you ever called yourself a digital native?
Never. Don't even know what it really means, to be honest. I'm an individual, I'm me. That's it.
Fantastic. Bridget, tell us a little bit about what you're up to, please.
Right, hi, I'm Bridget. I basically work with a Liberty programme. It's called Right Here, Right Now. It's also a joint feature with the Department for International Development. Basically, we're an online platform for young people for debate, discussion, anything to do with politics and international development. Look us up. We've actually had loads of discussions. It's just basically getting people, and young people especially, more involved with, what's actually going on in international development, which, we have strong opinions on, but we haven't had that many platforms to launch them. So, during the election, we had loads of election debates. We've had stuff on democracies. We've had stuff, just sharing things like some plays about, there was a play on a couple of months ago, and it was all about politics in West African countries. So, we just told other people about that. They went to see it. We discussed it. Last year I went to Copenhagen for the summit, and that was quite good. We did videos, we interviewed people, and we shared it back when we came back to the UK. And we basically sort of inspired debate.
These guys are absolutely amazing. I was behind the press pack at the G20 and heard the report saying, who are those kids and how did they get Geldof? Jamal, tell us a little bit about you, please, sir.
I own a UK kind of urban website, sbtv.co.uk, where it's like an online youth style channel that's got viewers from 16 to 30-year-olds from UK, Canada and America. My YouTube channel's got over 15 million hits. It's one of the UK's most subscribed and
don't play yourself down.
Channel of all time in the UK.
BBC is how you've been referred to, Jamal.
So yeah, I just do like videos, interviews, cover events, do little freestyle videos, music videos, and I do everything, film it and edit and put it up on YouTube.
I'm sure you're all very familiar with the UK urban music scene. But you can't actually be
But no, I've recently broadened out. I used to do like the urban scene with classes like people like Chipmunk and Tiny Temple, but recently they've gone to #1. But I've done videos with people called Newton Faulkner. I've done acoustic things with Eliza Doolittle. So I've broadened out recently over the year because I used to do a lot of.
And now you're a platform that no major music player can avoid or ignore. But how did this come about? How did it get started?
I was just filming people around my area and then uploading it to YouTube, and then the views started growing, so I just started doing it more regular.
And what's coming next?
What do you mean?
What's your plans? What's your digital developments?
I don't know, take it international, let everyone know. Everyone know about it.
Fantastic. And Harriet?
Hi. I studied social anthropology at SOAS, and I worked as a care worker for 7 years. While I was working as a care worker and studying, I realised there was a real need to bridge the divides between care and communities. So over the past couple of years, I've been raising awareness and thinking about how we need to improve the quality of social care. So a couple of months ago, I got seed funding to set up iCaring, which is basically using a safe, simple, positive process that enables people to get access to social care online. And it's about using kind of technology, the rapid development of technology today that enables us to have that safe, kind of inclusive design that enables people to click on, to find somebody in their local area, and to also be empowered by the information, because a lot of people get confused about the kind of support that's out there or the kind of skills that they need, and it's about kind of making that step to improving social care.
Amazing. I feel honoured to be stuck at the end of your table. And now I shall hand you over to our rival.
Team Awesome. That's us. Also known as the expert panel. My name is Alex Kwiatkowski. I'm fascinated by the web to the extent that it has taken over my life, both professionally, personally, and academically. I'm very interested in the social implications of the web, and as a social psychologist, I actually feel that we are a product, as individuals, we're a product of what we find around us and how we interact with people and technologies around us. Increasingly, obviously, this has been the web. Now, for my esteemed expert panel, whom I will not call digital immigrants, because it's such a foul expression and such a foul term. We can get into that in a minute. These are the people who have truly transformed what was initially a fledgling and emergent industry into something that they have each created and contributed to in the most profound ways. And I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second, but one thing that I think that Sam and I were very keen about when we were thinking about how to develop this panel is really to identify if the youth panel have any particular insights into what's going to be happening in the future, because they will be creating, and they will be part of that technological environment that they have built from, if you see what I mean. There's a kind of interaction that's going on there. But what I'm particularly interested in is if there are any differences between what the expert panel and what the youth panel feel about things like privacy, about ownership, about trust, about governance. Are there real differences? Are there similarities? And in fact, how then might that transform what they ultimately create in the future? Clearly an academic. So without further ado, I shall move on to the practitioners and ask, David, could you please introduce yourself and tell us why you're an expert?
So I'm David Cavallo. Up until 2 weeks ago, my colleague and wife Joy were with One Laptop Per Child, and now we're not. Different story. But I want to reject the term of being an expert on something like this. But what we tried to do with One Laptop Per Child, and even for us that came out of MIT for that, was looking at how technology really could profoundly change the way we understand the world and the way we learn. And for that reason, the type of world that we can all construct together. One Laptop Per Child, the mission was basically to really deliver high-powered, high-quality technology to every child on the planet, not just those that have the most resources, with the goal that this is really how we can build a much better world, that you can have a more just, equitable world, and it's through everybody's participation as a full citizen. And so this is the goal. Just the last thing there, though, is that we also just decided that we're not going to shove content down anybody's throat. We're not going to make decisions. But the idea of what you can do with a computer, and especially connected computers, is that you're giving tools and voice to everybody such that they can construct. Because we know the innovation and the great ideas are going to come from everywhere, not just experts pushing ideas at people, because one way to look at the world is that it's the experts that got us in the mess we're in now. So the idea with the technology is that it's much more democratic and has much greater potential for inclusion.
Your focus as well is on learning and how people do learn through technology. Can you tell me a little bit about how using technology and using these network structures facilitate learning in a different way than what perhaps than we went through when we were going through traditional schooling?
One of the things we like to do is ask people, what are you passionate about and how did you learn to do it? And it's almost never the way we traditionally approach education. That the idea with if you look at the growth of knowledge in the world in the last few decades, we could claim that it's computers that enable this, not just by access to information, but by using the computer as a tool for construction, as a tool for expression, as a tool for collaboration, that you can get your ideas out. So how anybody here might think, it's not going to be dictated by one way going forward, but his take on music or anything like that. He has the way to really get that out, and he constructs it, and through this construction, he's really going to learn. So we look at what a computer, as opposed to old technology like paper and pencil or books, the computer is the best tool that we have for thinking, communicating, collaborating that's ever existed. And if we say this is the basis of real learning, it's beyond just receiving information, but it's what you're going to do with it and how do you think about it. This is why we really went in that direction.
Peter, can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, so my name is Peter Sunde, and I'm Scandinavian, so sorry if my English is bad. I'm here probably because I'm one of the co-founders of the Pirate Bay, which is the biggest file sharing network in the world ever. Today it's 10 times bigger than Napster ever was. It's been up to almost half of all of the traffic on the internet passing through the system. It's based on the idea that very basic and similar to David's idea, is that we think that everybody has a right to participate, everybody has a right to share things, and we wanted to make a system where we allowed people to share whatever information they wanted. And we've been fighting very hard for this, both personally, politically, and in any way you can imagine. And out of that, everything surrounding my life has come out of that thought. I'm working right now with a system for sharing money, since that was also something which we felt was needing in the internet world. I could probably be in between these panels because I'm not 35 yet.
So can we all.
Yeah. But I actually started with computers when I was 9. So I would consider myself, if the word digital native actually existed, I would be that. And at the same time, I have, like most people today, a long experience with this. So, yeah.
How do you feel that experience, and I think we'll draw into this with the youth panel's experience as well, but how do you think that experience helped to inform why you set up Pirate Bay and this idea that property is mutable in a digital space?
Yeah, everything I've learned is from friends or from family or so, especially when it comes to the digital information, it's by copying. And when I got older and realized that copying is something which companies felt was bad, I became quite upset because I was a copy of things. So they essentially said I was illegal, which made me very politically aware of this and made me have to go into this.
And without further ado, I shall go to Andrew. Andrew, tell us about your experience being an entertainment distributor.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm here because at one level I'm representing perhaps the UK's most advanced network, so the Virgin Media Network. But the interesting thing is I come from a media background for the last 15, 20 years. And if you look at what's happening above and beyond pure broadband connectivity, you look at what our company and many other companies are trying to do, is we're trying to bring all that time and the way you run your life through 20 years ago, television and all the way you received information, and now through broadband and your mobile phone, the only device that lives with you at all hours of the day, and indeed historically your home phone. You take all those services, you put them together, and the services we provide as a company, everybody, not just the, quote, experts in this room and the interested parties, everybody's spending somewhere around 5 hours of every day, which is a disproportionate amount of their waking time, and it's an even bigger proportion of their free time on the services that we provide. You're beginning to live your life according to what your broadband, your television, your phone, your mobile phone will enable you to do, what they will empower you to do. That's a huge shift. It's happened in the last 5 years. So I think the reason I'm here is because we spend all of every day, thousands of people, trying to anticipate and encourage and support those changes in behavior. That's not an easy thing. So I'm constantly looking for insights from every source we can find as to what is it you really want to use this stuff for at a macro level, at a 5 hours a day level. So above and beyond this room is representative of millions and millions of people for whom, whether they want it or not, this is now shaping their lives. And so it's up to all of us to kind of help understand those trends from the front of it and then make it easy, safe, trustworthy for people to make that huge behavioral shift. It's a really daunting thing for many, many people.
And are those elements, the safety, the trust, those are the things that you've seen transform over the past 5 years?
Yes, but not necessarily for the better. So I think there's probably a larger unease, and I'd very much welcome people's view on this. There's a larger unease amongst those who are not volunteers for this revolution, amongst exactly what it is they're getting into, what information they're sharing, what services they're signing up for. There's a larger unease, particularly amongst parents, than perhaps people had anticipated 2 or 3 years ago when it was all a wide open field for good.
And finally, Martha.
Someone described me the other day as a dot-com dinosaur, which I thought was cheeky at 37. I don't know what it's going to be like by the time I'm 50. I co-founded lastminute.com in 1997. That was when, in the UK, we would ring people up and say we're starting a website, and they would say, everything on the web is either paedophiles, or they're going to steal your money, and put the phone down, or you're completely mad, it will never work. And it seems strange now to think that when we started lastminute.com, there was no Google, there was no social networking to speak of. There were pages that loaded very, very slowly. So that was the beginning of my kind of life on the internet, and I find myself strangely going full circle, because I was asked by the government to look at the people who've never used the internet, and also government's digital capability itself. So I'm now in a position where I am talking to people for whom either the internet means nothing because they've never used it, 10 million of them just in this country, or strangely people in government who are, I would say, very familiar, because they are giving a lot of the same reactions as we were encountering in 1997, and it seems unsurprisingly government is the last organisation to be disrupted by technology, and the pace and the rate of change is going to be quite extraordinary.
After the last election, somebody sent an email around. He's actually speaking in the other room. Don't run and talk to him, by the way. But I thought it was quite an insightful comment. He said that I bet Nick Clegg and David Cameron played computer games because they're the right generation, which means that computer gamers have finally achieved the status of power. So yes, if you're a dinosaur, then yeah, well, I'm pretty good with a light gun, so I'm sure we can take them all. Same.
Wow, the nerds are in control. I'm really interested, as that went down, we were talking earlier on about what would you ask the experts, and we've got a whole bunch of our own questions, but actually, even then, a couple of you immediately begun to identify things that you'd like to know from these guys, and kind of from these guys, what kind of sharing they can have for you. And to me, that's the whole premise of this. Hopefully we do, hopefully we win, but hopefully we do find somewhere in between, because the expertise that you have, to these guys who are, you're all practitioners, is the other word of it. And I'm really interested, one of the comments from this, guys, is what do you think a digital expert was? And Harriet, you said someone who can work out how to make some money out of this. So I'm quite interested in some advice from your panel. You know, having heard these guys, looking back, be you dinosaurs or experts, what you'd say to these guys from the positions that you are in.
It is
insights from experts.
Yeah, it is the classic question ultimately. And Martha, can you perhaps postulate about how one can make money from the internet?
Jesus, I think a healthy, big dose of luck, frankly. You know, I constantly think about the fact that most businesses fail. You know, that's the bottom line. 9 out of 10 new businesses don't get anywhere. So it's hard. It's really hard. But I think, to me, the businesses that are successful are founded on something that you can really enjoy and love as a customer. And if you don't have that as the founder of your business, then I don't believe you'll be successful. So the first thing I think is to really think, okay, would I use this? Do I love it? Do I want to pay for it? And if you can build out from that, that's a pretty good starting point.
Andrew, would you say that there's more competition now, though? I mean, there clearly is more competition now. But what is the commercial environment that the youth panel are finding themselves in, given that we are starting to really renegotiate some of these more interesting questions about trust, and not just, you know, we've got the volume of content that's going online.
There's several different topics in one,
yes.
Alex.
I know.
The first thing is, I think there's probably more opportunity now, as a personal view, than there ever has been. And it's the same kind of argument that says there are more scientists alive and working today than there ever have been in history if you brought them all back from the dead. So when you look at the sort of exponential rate of people coming up with good stuff and people finding good stuff, which is really the internet when you come down to it, the breadth of opportunity and the plethora and the speed of opportunity, I think, has never, ever, ever been better, even within the life of the internet. So I don't find that discouraging. I actually find it quite empowering and encouraging. I mean, when you come back to the original question and you say, you know, what do you do now? The issue in terms of how do you make money, I think, isn't really a challenge for, I'll speak for myself, for the dinosaurs or the experts. What we do is try to empower and enable people like you to do stuff, and we make it much easier for many, many, many other people to find it and tell you what they think of it, one way or the other. If that involves money, that's great. If that involves eyeballs or views, that's great. So it's really a question of what do you want to do in a much bigger marketplace, even if that's not money, than has ever been possible in human progress. And that's a wonderful thing.
I think this is what I want to pick up on, is the fact that you say that, okay, yes, you're right, that, you know, maybe 8 out of 10 businesses do fail, right? And but there is this platform, there is this opportunity. I mean, myself, I'm meeting lots of incredible people who have been very successful online, but also working with digital media, and it's about that inclusivity and that accessibility that makes it attractive to the customer. It's not just, you know, a pretty gadget, or in my case, it's about confidence and empowering that person to trust it, and that comes through digital design. That comes through actually, though, having my search engine up, my SEO ratings. You know, something simple as that, or understanding how Google Analytics work, or, you know, maybe if I put how many Google ad the word kind of allocation for your, you know, and you have maybe a bid for a certain amount of money per month. Is that the most constructive way to getting my profile up there? And I think for me and from people that I'm also meeting who are starting up social enterprises or are in that early stages, we are looking for you guys to give us that welly, you know, that information, because that knowledge will enable us to get those great ideas out there. But if we don't have that support, then you won't get those creative ideas from a startup, a grassroots level. What you will get is an institution, a big corporation that will pull out a nice idea that they've picked off a Virgin Media person, and they'll do it. And it won't be half as good as ours, but they'll do it because they can market it. And, you know, I think that's really important.
So when you talk about Willie, are you talking about money?
Not necessarily.
To start things off, or are you talking about advice? What's the platform that you
Well, I think you can give money, but if you don't give them the direction, if you don't have the knowledge behind the money, then the money is wasted. Because when you're starting up, you meet lots of people who think, aha, that's a great idea, or, you know, or I can see that's marketable. And you can find yourself losing that money very quickly. It's about, okay, you need that seed funding, you need that, you know, that money to pay your developer, to pay for your marketing, or to get a bit of PR. I mean, Virgin Media, the PR that we've got out of it, awesome, because we have this voice. But I think actually the knowledge and the contacts and the great advisors are worth more than the money.
I think what's really interesting, something that you bring up, and also something that the panel brought up, was that we are actually looking to you guys. I say we, it's the royal we. They are looking to you guys to see these new and innovative ways that you have become successes. So, for example, Jamal, you've got this incredible success. How did that happen? Not, you know, well, how did that happen? But how did that happen? Because, you know, we're awfully curious. We'd love to know. And Sam, at the same time, how did it happen that you've created such a successful entity without the traditional pillars of what, you know, what people on this panel have traded on historically?
Well, I got a camera for Christmas, and then I just went out and started filming like my mates. And then when I uploaded it to YouTube, like, I made like some silly videos as well of like some fox, and it got like thousands of views. I was like, alright, cool. So I went back and then I filmed one of my mates just rapping to the camera, and then I put that up. Then people was like, oh, why don't you do more? So then I've done more, and as that started growing, like well-known MCs started to get in contact with me, and I used to film them. So I'll go like backstage at their gig, and I'll be the only one. I'll have that exclusivity, and then I'll put it up. Then I'll get thousands of views, and then like the way it growed is because I've done that, and then a guy from the BBC saw my videos, so then he employed me as an assistant producer on BBC Three for a thing called Gel Tales, and I produced like 10 music videos for that, so that boosted it again. And then when I left that, the head of production at Tiger Aspect saw another one of my videos, and then they brought me in, and that's what I'm doing right now. So that's how it helped me. Like when I was uploading it to YouTube, they saw YouTube, got in contact with me, and said, "Come in."
Was it the fact that you just said, "Yeah, brilliant," and then you just produced and you just did it like that? Do you think that was something that was a real key to your success?
It was when I first started, because we used Z1s, and like my camera's just like a little HD camera. So when I went in there, they did teach me how to use Final Cut Pro. I already knew the basics, but then they helped me boost it a bit more. So
But for any of the four of you, was there ever a point when someone said, "This is the limitless potential of the potential of the internet. Go forth, have these ideas"? I mean, it doesn't feel like there's a point at which anyone's come with their expertise and inspiration.
No, I think like the great thing about the internet is that it gives everyone 5 minutes of fame. It gives everyone access to an audience. So if you can produce something of value, good content, like for example what Jamal produces, instantly there are millions of people all over the world that have access to it, and then it can just snowball. And I don't think, like I never bothered with a business plan or anything like that. I mean, for me, it was kind of like the big sort of turning point was after I read Richard Branson's autobiography, and there's a big focus in there about the difference between talkers and doers. And rather than sitting there and spending months planning everything and how this is going to work, sometimes you just got to go out there and do it. In one of the panels I was watching earlier, they said the same things about just going out there and making mistakes and learning from them, and then carrying on going. And that was the same thing. I was just like, I want to do this. I'm going to do it, rather than spending months messing around and doing business plans and working out about finances and all that kind of stuff. Anyone can spend a $5 a month on hosting, buy a domain for a tenner, and then you're going, really. Install WordPress, and it's free. And then if you're producing content that people need, if it's of value, you've essentially got a huge audience there. The internet gives everyone a huge amount of power to express their opinion, their values, and whatever else. I think that's the wonderful thing about it.
Go digital natives.
But it's the broadband that gives us really the power, because then it means everybody can actually get on and get online, because it's not just the internet, it's about speed and people being able to click on and use a video and it work properly. So,
And would you as the experts reflect, so that makes a lot of sense to me, and that does seem to be the democracy and the opportunity of the internet, go and get on it. But you guys as experts, to Sam and the other guys, do you support that view, that approach? Do you think it's, leaving the business plan and the finances to the back and just getting on with it is the way to go forward?
Yeah, and to that end, how different is that from your own experiences? So Peter, a classic example of just going out there and doing it.
Yeah,
how different is that to your own experience, what's just been described?
Yeah, so I think that, the key thing with the internet is not the technology itself, it's the low cost of it. It's how easy it is, just as you say, to set up a website or do whatever. And it's the decentralization. There is no one that you have to ask for permission to do anything. You just do it, and we never had that before. But at the same time, I think that the thing that we need to go to in the next level is to start thinking about the internet as just an integral part of the world, because we're always discussing internet as something separate, like virtual thing. But it's not anymore for most people. So I'm waiting for the mashups of real life and internet things, and these people are making it, of course, because it's the everyday life things that they want to embed.
Do you feel, Jamal, for example, you create the content just based on, you've got commissions and you've also got your camera, so you go out there and you just capture. Did you ever consider just sending it to TV? Did you ever consider, or Sam, did you ever consider writing a zine or doing something that wasn't digital to distribute it? How integral was the web in what it was that you were thinking about doing?
Well, there was a channel on Sky called Flavor, and they saw my videos, and they wanted me to have like a half-an-hour segment every day, but I didn't think it would make a difference. Like I said to them, I'll put a trailer on the website, like say for example, I'd do an interview with Beyonce, and then I say, all right, you can watch the full interview on Flavor TV, but then they wanted me to do it for free. So I was like, I was going to do it myself on my own YouTube, so I'll get ad revenue share of that. So if I'm going to give it to them, there's no point, because they'll be getting all the views and stuff, so I didn't do that. But people always ask me when I'm going to be on TV. I was like, I'm fine with the internet for now. Because with YouTube, they give you a cut of it, but if you have your own video player, you get 100% of the revenue. But because I've got a partnership with YouTube, they take a percentage, but I'm still living right now, so it's all right for now.
Excellent. Genius. I'm learning so much about my own business plan. On that, on content, Pete, what you just said and we were talking earlier about, running through things we might come up and talking about content and the approach to legal versus illegal downloading. And as we went down the route, it was actually quite clear that the word illegal is irrelevant. It's just downloading. And none of these guys saw it. And I think that's probably quite an interesting insight from these guys. Would you say that was fair? That you and your peers don't view it necessarily as illegal downloading, it's just there?
Definitely.
Tell us what you think, Bridget.
Well, I think that honestly there are much better things to be getting on with than tracking down this one person in their bedroom in South London and saying, you've stolen 4 tracks off the internet. And I think now the way the internet is so accessible that it's not feasible to police it. And in the cases that they do, you get this one guy in his bedroom somewhere and he's fined God knows how many millions of dollars for downloading a thing and sharing it on the internet. And I mean, even if they could police it, I think it would be really bad just for the music industry, the film industry. Most of the stuff I've listened to in the last year has been sort of underground artists. I just did this thing for 2010. I was like, I'm not going to buy any music in HMV. I'm going to just see if I can get like LPs and live music. And I mean, like there are a couple of like your A64s, the F64s that Jamal does on his website that I've seen. And it's just like, oh wow, this person's really good. I'm going to go and see them. And they'll have something free on the internet just to download. And I think especially for the smaller artists who aren't making money anyway, giving out their music for free means that they get a lot more revenue in the end with gigs. And if you are a bigger artist, you can kind of afford to let a couple of people, listen to their stuff. It's a bit annoying when you do get these huge, massive artists who get millions from like 2 concert dates, and they're still, I mean, they've been going on for years and years, and it's like, we lose so much money. It's like, well, you earn so much.
But they get co-signed as well. Because like I done a video of a guy called Ed Sheeran where he's a ginger guy and he's like loads of people loads of people stereotype him, but he's actually a cool guy. Like no. But like he sings, raps, beatboxes, everything. He's got a loop pedal, like he's amazing. And I must have done a video of him first, and like now it's on 95,000 hits. And when I'd done that, he went to the Sunday show, which is like a little show for like that showcases people, and then he got seen by a guy called Example. And then like I know Example, so I sent him this video. I was like, look at this guy, you should get him on your tour. And now he's supporting him on his tour. So that kind of.
So you can use platforms for creativity and awareness. You can circumnavigate the system, and you can create your own business platform. So to you, those messages are increasingly irrelevant. Harriet, you were referencing some of the anti-piracy messages earlier on.
Was I? Okay. Can you recapture
You wouldn't steal a film. You wouldn't.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, was that you? Sorry,
Yeah.
Bridget.
It was just that thing, that advert when you watch a film and it's like, you wouldn't steal a handbag, you wouldn't steal a this. It's like, well, if I could download it, to be honest, I probably would, which is, it's the truth. And I don't think, maybe it's just me because I'm a young person, and, I've grown up with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how it's theft, and maybe that's just because, it's walked up in my head, but I think it's a lot more beneficial to have that platform where everything's accessible rather than cutting things off. And I'm quite scared of how a lot of places now are charging for content, like newspapers, that would just...
Financial Times?
Yeah, that would kind of make me a bit gutted. Guardian, if you're here, please don't, because I look at your website quite a lot, and, it'd be a bit... I think it would just definitely...
But as you guys go into the future making money from your platforms, there's surely something to be learned from these guys. I mean, how many of them do we think download illegal music?
I was actually going to ask. So, taking off your corporate hats, let's share, shall we? But Andrew, how much of this have you seen? What is the transformation? Would you say between over the past, say 5 or 6, 7 years of an increase of people, the downloading traffic, etc.? Do you think that is a generational thing, or do you think that is just something that's becoming part of the fabric of the web anyway?
I think it's a couple of things. First of all, I mean, you've said this yourself many times, which is there is a generation or a perception out there that the internet is free. Okay, that's not a moral judgment or anything. That's just an observation. Okay, and what you have is such a disruption in terms of all of the old media models which I don't think anyone would argue with. And at the same time, you have a general, I think, belief that music got it wrong. So whatever your solution is, there are many, the current state of the music industry and where they are in terms of downloading, availability of content, the provision of legal alternatives to general downloading. There's a perception that it was maybe too little, too late, and they haven't cracked it yet. So on that, the next big one's video, is what happens to video on the web. And we're kind of in the middle of the beginning at the moment on that one. But there isn't a clear path yet to quite how you reconcile a perception that all content on the internet is basically free with the huge precedent of 60 years of creative effort and all the economics that go with that, down to films in the theaters, all the way through, and how you reconcile those two things. And I think this could turn into a 6-day seminar, and we wouldn't get much further, to be honest. And there must be 10 seminars going on right now somewhere around the world trying to crack that one. The one thing I'd observe, and I worked for a Hollywood studio for a number of years, if you accept that music's not in a good place right now, at least as an industry, you say to yourself, doing nothing ain't the answer. You need to have, as an industry, a whole bunch of legal, practical, attractive alternatives that make people go, yeah, if I am going to pay something, that is worth paying for. And at the moment, there's too big a gap between what you can do and what the industry is asking you to do. And success lies somewhere in the middle there.
Right?
Yeah, can I?
By all means.
Yeah, so one of the things that when we talk about this is that the semantics is a bit wrong. It's not the music industry that's in a bad place, it's the record industry. Music is thriving, it's growing all the time. I think in Sweden we doubled each year in revenue for the music industry. So it's just the record sales which are down, which is good for the environment, which is good for most people. That's something which happens historically. And I think this is a good thing, and it's just part of normal evolution, and we shouldn't be so scared about it. And the thing that happens is that, with the decentralization and the democratization that happens with the internet, makes everybody their own record label, everybody's their own producer, and we remove the middleman, which creates a totally different industry and a totally different society, which is mostly for the good. We're still trying all of it, and we need to find maybe financing models. I'm working on one. There will be lots of different ones that we have to try. But the people need to stop thinking about if it's good or bad, if illegal downloading exists or not, because it will exist forever because people want it. So it's not really a question about how to stop it or not, because it can't be stopped. So just take the next level and start discussing.
Harriet,
Yeah.
I don't think we should underestimate the consumer. I think that, yes, I think initially when you want to investigate music and you want to hear something quickly, you don't want to be spending $15 or $9.99 to know that you don't like the album. But essentially you do. I mean, my flatmates are 29, 30, and they're either working in media or digital industry, and they're all like, I used to pay 15 quid for a CD. I'm quite happy to sign up to iTunes. I pay $9.99 for Spotify, because I don't like to hear the adverts. And I love going to live gigs. And I think that forces artists actually to give us their creativity on a platform, that I don't want to see an artist all the time on on a video. I want to see them live. And you think about the thousands of people who go to Glastonbury, they pay their tickets. And I think that we will get over that sort of good and bad. I think we need to have a bit more equality in a sense of creativity, that people should be able to have the opportunity to get that music if they want it. And if they don't, if they're on benefits, they don't want to be spending 20 quid to get some music. They need that music. It's a lot to do with well-being. But just like the arts, we have free. The great thing is that we have free galleries, but it doesn't stop people from paying huge amounts of money at Christie's to get great paintings, or paying to go and see events. And I think that it comes down to the value.
David, I wanted to expand on that, because I think one of the elements that we're talking about here, one of the things that we're seeing more and more in terms of the creation of content, is collaboration. And this is something that you've built a career on, that you're passionate about, that you've studied. Can you talk a little bit about what you see the role of collaboration is for the future generation of people who will be developing web platforms and web applications?
Well, I mean, it's everything. I mean, it's the easiest answer. That, you know, when talking before, you know, there's certain subtle shifts that have happened in the world, even if you're talking about business plans or how you go about making a music video or anything that technology really enabled. Being a true dinosaur, I first learned how to program using punch cards. And the turnaround times, it would be a day before you'd actually get to start to work your program. And that made you say preparation was everything. You had to plan, you had to do things. And we made horrible things as engineers for people that they never wanted, but because the design process was horrendous. This shifted, so the whole idea of like, try it, do it, edit it, first pass doesn't matter. These kind of things have been totally enabled. The same thing with like, we'll call copying in a way where it feels bad, like in school you can't copy, but we all know we don't learn just sitting by ourselves. We learn in collaboration with others, how we're inspired, how you got to do. Lots of people have cameras, but not everybody did with it what you do. But you didn't do it in isolation either. You're influenced by the culture, and you had your own, you had the chance for your own voice. So these are the kind of things, it's like, we're very social beings, that's what we are. And to say that, oh, but for this or because of an economic model, no, we can't collaborate or we shouldn't collaborate. We're just kind of stifling human creativity and human expression. I want to get one last point on a previous thing. For engineering students, you're going to use design software. In the developing world, the design software, the universities can't get it. You know, so what do? So a good friend, colleague that works at the current Brazilian government is very committed to free software. And he spoke in an engineering symposium, asked the students, how many of you use this software? You know, everybody's hand goes up. How many of you bought a license for that software? Everybody's hands went up because they're not stupid, you know. But none of them had $30,000 to buy the license. And so we've got things that really create inequity through these kind of economic models. And it's easier to sit here or in Boston and talk about what's there, but as long as the price is so high for software or content that we'd say is really essential to living or making a better life, if price is the barrier, then we're doing something wrong. And we really have to come up with new models that make things more equitable.
I'm quite excited by this idea of failure. I think failure is something that is underrated, particularly amongst a generation of people who were dealing with the emerging technologies. It has become part of the practice, this idea of iterative development and agile development. And Martha, I was wondering how scared you were of failure when you decided that you'd go forward and do it.
Probably not that scared, and that's the kind of luxury of, well, we were 24, 25, and I was lucky I didn't have financial pressure at that particular time, and didn't care about any money. So we were lucky. We had the privilege, I think, of not being too scared to fail, and that's one of the big observations that I would say about kind of British entrepreneurialism, if you like, that we love it. The Daily Mail loves getting in there and saying, you screwed up, when our share price for our company went from £7 to 18p, the headlines were, I had single-handedly crashed the stock market, hooray, that woman who was so annoying about the internet's blown up. And it's kind of, actually, that's really a bad attitude. You want to celebrate people who give things a whirl. And the great thing now about technology, and listening to all of you guys, you're living it, it's just you can get out there much more low cost. It wasn't so possible back in 1997. It is now. You can just give something a whirl. And organisations, I believe, that don't just keep trying to test won't be here. And that will be true whether you're Marks and Spencer, I sit on the board of, or whether you're sitting in a cabinet office and in government. You've got now to get into a culture of testing, things going wrong, just getting out there.
And I wonder how... Sorry, go on.
No, by all means.
No,
I'll let you have this one.
Thank you. Because there was lots of points you talked about, whether it was about accessibility of music or through to accessibility and inclusion. And I'm still staggered by the figure that there's 10 million people who aren't on the. I didn't think there was an asparagus that wasn't on the internet. It's just so. But how, what's your guys' experience of lack of access? Like you said, you go Camera Christmas, great, but like you said, it's what you then did with it. You're all about access, and how do you share that and get out? What are the barriers that stand in the way to you guys? What can we inform? If Martha's in charge of making this happen.
How many people do you even know who never use the internet?
One. My aunt, or my great aunt, who is 60-something.
In your group of your friends?
No. None at all.
Because there are 700,000 kids who know you.
I know a load of people in Yorkshire. I'm from a rural community, Whitby. It's a very nice, pretty place, but it doesn't actually have digital radio right now. And broadband is extremely slow, and things like community education and the stuff that you're talking about, getting people to use digital inclusion. What does digital inclusion mean? It means about empowering learners to understand how to use a service, how to get their bill paid for them, how to, how to feel empowered about, when we had the political debates, what was going on. And I talked to my mother who works in adult education, and she has a load of tutors. And do they know how to blog? No. Do they know how to Twitter? No, not yet. And it's about giving them the confidence. And you've got to, I think the hardest thing with the government, or what you will have to tackle with, is the training. Because it's all very well our generation picking it up, but you've got a huge generation that are there, that are, incredibly important to us, but need that support. And it's the human element. You need that through digital design, you need it through creativity, through clarity in your words, keeping it simple so people understand it and don't feel phased out by it. That fear factor that you've got to get over, and you can only get over that by having intelligent people and training those people to get people to understand and to enjoy the internet. And I think... Okay, awesome.
Jamal, I keep picking on you. Sorry.
Brilliant. Sorry, I was going to cut you off again.
No. But how important is it to you to be on TV?
She wants to get you on TV.
But seriously, because you said that people are saying to you, well, when are you going to be on TV? Like, compared with the fact that you've got the biggest urban music channel in Britain, how important would it be to translate that to television?
It would be good, but I'm not in any rush. If I get good enough...
How much you get paid?
If I get good enough, like prime time slot or something, that's what I want to aim for. I don't want to aim for any other channels that would maybe that's me just being kind of big-headed, but I know I put in a lot of work over that, because I started it when I was 16 and I'm 19 now, so when I started it was I would take anything, but as I realised I've got to know my worth, because I didn't really know my worth before, but then I spoke to people, and then TV doesn't really...
Oh, it's just a different channel, isn't it?
Yeah. If it's prime time, yeah. It's that's good.
Hold out for prime time, definitely, Jamal. Last points before we have to wrap up.
I was just going to say about your website. I think it's a lot better to be the best on the web than on some smallest corner at 2 in the morning on
that's
just because I think you'd get a much wider audience. And I personally am on the internet a lot more than I watch TV. And if I watch TV, it's often on iPlayer or something, because then I don't have to bother with adverts. And I think that's how we've progressed now. All the other mediums, like the radio, the TV, we've all kind of wrapped it up into one, just into my laptop. And I think now it's kind of scary but quite interesting, and how it's going to develop from now. Are we going to get to a stage where you just literally have a laptop and it has everything? You don't even need a laptop, you need a phone. It's scary how much information's on this small little thing. And I mean, I was thinking, I need a new laptop, but it's well, I could just get a new phone, and that's I don't really need it. And yeah, I think it's important to the one laptop per child thing. It's important to just widen that out to people.
So I'm going to try and sum up for my team, which is difficult because you're way more incredible. So it seems to be our guys aren't that held back by traditional media, dinosaur media. We're not bothered by it. We're just going to get on and do it. We're not even going to be held back by business plans. We're going to work it out as we go. We're going to be iterative in every single stage, but we're going to listen and learn as we go. And confidence and creativity seem to be our watchwords for us going forward and changing the world. I'm very pleased to hear the confidence here of the fail more, fail better approach. And I would definitely say digital natives is no longer the right term, and actually maybe over here we have the real digital experts.
Ooh, I didn't know we were doing this. Closing comments, Your Honour. Well, I'd like to sum up for my team, Ben. or my panel, excuse me, the language, suddenly we get a bit gladiator style. What I think was really interesting from this panel and from this discussion is how little is actually different in terms of the attitudes of the people who are actually creating these things that will transform the world in the future. We have people on this panel who have studied, who have analyzed, who have built the emergent web and who've created the platform that you guys are simply taking forward. One thing, though, I think that is different is, or not different, but one thing that I think is definitely an interesting challenge is to understand how we can listen to what it is that you want and what it is that you need, so that we can help to create that platform that you can then build on in the future. Because we do have those resources, and we do have the experience, and we do have the voices and the PR. We have those industries already sort of under our belt as traditional industries. And so how it is that you can take that forward based on the attitudes that you've got that will move you into the future and create a better world. So while I wouldn't necessarily call us dinosaurs, and yes, I would actually say that you are experts. I'd say that we're just one big happy global group hug here on the panels tonight.
And on that happy note, I have to say thank you to all of the experts.
Indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to Guardian, and thank you to Virgin Media for bringing us all together. Thank you very much indeed.